أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد. Sheikh Bakr rahimahullah ta'ala, he says here, and we're trying to finish before the Q&A بإذن الله عز وجل. الفصل السادس التحلي بالعمل. Chapter number 6, he says التحلي بالعمل, adorning yourself by acting and implementing what you have learned. A very important point, he says, number 44, من علامات العلم النافع, signs that you have acquired beneficial knowledge. And this perhaps is one of the most commonly and frequently asked questions. How do I know that I'm on the right track? How do I know I'm on the right path? How do I know this is the right class or the right school or the right madhab for me? How do I know that I'm actually learning? What are the signs that the ilm is beneficial, it's wholesome, that is fruitful, that is penetrating my heart, my ears, my mind? I'm really learning, I'm going somewhere. How do I know? The author, rahimahullah, he says, من علامات العلم النافع تساءل مع نفسك عن حظك من علامات العلم النافع وهي أولا العمل به، ثانيا كراهية التزكية والمدح والتكبر على الخلق، ثالثا تكاثر التواضع كلما ازددت علما، رابعا هرب من حب الترأس والشهرة والدنيا، خامسا هجر دعوى العلم، سادسا إساءة الظن بالنفس وإحسانه بالناس تنزها عن الوقوع بهم. He says, ask yourselves the following questions when you want to know how much beneficial knowledge you've actually obtained. First and foremost, the signs of beneficial knowledge. Number one, al-amalu bihi, implementing it. You've learned, but have you implemented? You've understood, you have the degree, you have the ijazah, you finish, you complete, but are you getting up at night? Are you fasting in the daytime? Are you reading the Quran? Are you giving charity? Are you paying zakat on your ilm, etc.? You have to show and prove that the knowledge was actually beneficial. And that is by you yourself becoming guided and you yourself guiding others. That's how you know when the knowledge is serious and it's for real. And the same applies to dawah groups, dawah organizations, YouTube, sheikhs, whatever the case may be. When you listen to this class, or you watch this video, or you sit in this workshop, or you accompany this person, you travel, how do you feel afterwards? Do you feel like a better Muslim? Do you feel cleaner spiritually? Do you feel you have more love for Allah Azza wa Jalla? Is your heart softer? Or do you feel the opposite? And this can only be answered by you. There's no mufti in the dunya that can give this fatwa for you. This is a fatwa that only you can answer with yourself before you go to sleep at night. And when you wake up in the morning time, how do you feel? Closer to Allah or the opposite? How do you feel with regards to the Muslims? You have more compassion for them, sympathy for them, or the opposite, hard-heartedness against those who say, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, regardless of the details, regardless of the specifics. But the general concept of Ahlul Qibla. We're understanding? So these are signs of who you should learn from and who you should not learn from. And I'm asked all the time, who should we study from? Who should we listen to? I never ever give the answer of specific names because that only adds water to the grease fire. That's only adding more fuel to the inferno that's already burning. This one and that one, la. But the comprehensive signs prove who and where and how you should or shouldn't study. So that's the first sign of alamat al-ilm al-nafi', is that you're implementing it. And if you're not implementing it, then obviously he's saying that the knowledge isn't necessarily beneficial. Now, before I came, there was another book that I wanted to teach, and that was فضل علم السلف على علم الخلف of Ibn Rajab rahimahullah ta'ala. We've explained the book from cover to cover, walillahi alhamd, on the channel, but I wanted to make qira'at, yani mukhtara, selected readings. And that's because Ibn Rajab rahimahullah ta'ala, in the beginning of the book, he explains in qisam al-ilm that knowledge itself is divided into several categories. There's knowledge which is nafi'un fi nafsihi, and then there's knowledge which is darun fi nafsihi, which is harmful itself. Knowledge which itself is beneficial. And then obviously there's a fork in the road. There are those who benefit from that beneficial knowledge, and then those who benefit not from that beneficial knowledge. And that's different here. Because you may actually have beneficial knowledge, but not implement it. The actual teaching is proper. The sheikh, the speaker, the da'i, whoever is teaching you, he was upon good. But you yourself didn't implement it. And it does not necessitate that knowledge wasn't beneficial. And then there's some type of knowledge or certain types of knowledge which itself is dar, ghayru nafi', is either isn't beneficial or it's harmful itself, nafsuhu, such as sihr, for example. Everyone understand this? There's a difference. So there may be a benefit in the ilm, but you may not benefit from it. Now, as Allah Azza wa Jalla tells us about that servant that Ibn Kathir and others mention from the Isra'iliyat, his name was Bal'am. الذي آتيناه آياتنا فانسلخ منها. طيب خير إن شاء الله. Moving forward. Number 2, he says كراهية التزكية والمدح والتكبر على الخلق is hating to be praised and not liking to be praised and to be lauded and flattered. He says والمدح, people always clapping their hands and tooting your horn and celebrating you. If it happens and you dislike it, then it isn't a sign that you haven't learned and benefited, because it's going to happen. It's impossible for you to learn and to benefit and to study and to teach and the people not praise you. That's just how it is. It's going to be like that. But you yourself dispraise it and you don't like it yourself. Everyone understand this? And it does not mean that if someone praises you or gives you due respect or your worth or your value, that you yourself like it and love it. Everyone understand? That's a mistake. Talib. Thirdly, he says, وَالتَّكَبُّرْ عَلَى الْخَلْقِ. This is not the third point, it's the same sentence. He says, takabbur is that you become so proud, so proud, so prideful. You become so full of yourself and you're above everyone else and everyone is beneath you and below you. That's a major problem that you have not learned. It's a sign that you haven't benefited from that knowledge. Number 3 is that whenever you learn something, you become more and more humble. More and more humble. And true people, or people that have wealth, if you ever go over their homes, in most cases they choose to serve you themselves. And they take honor in serving. He owns the house. He owns everything in the house. He's paid for everything, your entire entertainment, but he himself, he pours the tea for you. He gives you the soup. He offers you the food because he knows that humility is a sign of mastery. And it's not the opposite. The more knowledge you get, the higher you are. And the less you can do this, and the less you can be here, and the less you can help people out and deal with people and help people out. La. So from the most important signs that you've truly learned and benefited is that you look at yourself as a servant for the people. I'm a servant for the people. And whatever benefit that I can give them, and I have the physical ability to do so, the door is open. Regardless of where you come from, what you look like, and regardless, most importantly, of what you can do for me. There's certain people who only give benefit. They'll only answer a question. They'll only help out. They'll only give extra time if they themselves bring something to the table. Or how you look, or where you come from. What can you do for me? Or how can you hook me up? And that's incorrect for the student of knowledge. You are a servant of the deen, a servant of ilm, and a servant of the people. And the more you learn, the humbler you are. And the opposite is the opposite. The more ignorant you are, and the less you know, the more you talk and the more you think that you actually know. The next point, number 4, he says, running from authority, positions of authority, leadership. And as we have explained before in many books, this speech is not the speech of Allah nor the speech of His Messenger, alayhi salatu wasalam. Rather, the speech of Allah and His Messenger, we understand. And there's general, there's specific, there's nasikh, mansukh, there's mujmal, mu'awwal, zahir, etc. Okay? So the Quran is to be understood. And the hadiths are to be understood. let alone the statement of a scholar or a companion or a tabi'i. We've explained this in many, many classes. And we don't just take everything absolute. Because if you run for leadership, it could be a good thing. But in another time or another place, it could be a bad thing. It could be cowardice. You run from leadership because you're afraid and scared. Or you may run from leadership and you leave the door open for someone who isn't qualified. Don't understand this? And that's worse now. So you sacrificing your own personal comfort. You sacrificing your own humility at the expense of the people. Now you have someone who's leading the salah or teaching a class who's going to mislead. He's harmful. Or at best, he isn't as good as you. And you leave the position open for him because he says, I don't want to take authority. I don't want to be a leader. You understand this? It's very dangerous. And the text that you use to show that you shouldn't be a judge, or that you shouldn't be an imam, or you shouldn't be a leader, or you shouldn't rush for leadership, there are also nusus that talk about the virtue of khalifa, the virtue of being an imam. And he mentioned the first and foremost, he says, Al-Imam wal-Adil. He says the 7 people under Allah's shade on that day in which there's no shade except for his, is the just imam. All right? And Allah tells us about Dawood and Sulaiman, so on and so forth. We made them leaders. So there is a balance. Running and rushing to leadership is a no-no. Running from it and there's someone that's better for the job, alhamdulillah. Taking on the authority and the leadership and you're most qualified and most suited for the job, that's a different story. And asking Allah to help you and to support you and to make you just and strong to help the people out, then that's from the greatest stations in the deen. To be a leader, to be a judge, to be a means of justice on earth. So there's a what? There is a balance. And do not attack someone that you don't like or you differ with and use these types of absolute statements, as many people do. And we've explained this on Kitab Al-Ilm of Zuhair ibn Harb, Abu Khaytham al-Nasai. So moving forward, number 5, Hajru Da'wa Al-Ilm is not claiming that you have knowledge. Claiming that you have knowledge and claiming that you know and claiming that you're strong. Avoid these things. Number 6 is thinking bad of yourself and thinking good of the people. To beware of falling into attacking them. Maybe I made the mistake. Maybe I said it wrong. Maybe it wasn't clear. Maybe I didn't explain it well enough. Maybe I'm a bad teacher. Instead of saying you're a bad student, you're a bad learner, the people don't want to learn, the people don't want to benefit. Maybe it's me. And this is one of the most difficult tasks, is critical self-reflection. To look in the mirror and to find ugliness within yourself. To look in the mirror and to criticize yourself before anyone else and make an excuse for the people and blame yourself. And obviously, if you do this, the opposite is going to happen. You're going to benefit. Allah is going to raise you and exalt you. Tayyib, moving forward, number 45, Zakatul Ilm. Paying tax on your knowledge. Paying tax on the wealth that you have amassed. أدي زكاة العلم صاعا بالحق أمارا بالمعروف نهانا عن المنكر موازنا بين المصالح والمضار ناشرا للعلم وحب النفع وبذل الجاه والشفاعة الحسنة للمسلمين في النواب الحق والمعروف فاحرص على هذه الحلية فهي رأس ثمرة علمك. He says, establish the zakat of your money, the wealth of ilm. Metaphorically speaking, you've become very rich, very wealthy through these years of trading. And the same applies to you've studied in Egypt, you graduated, you have a master's, you have a PhD, you have an ijazah. You've become rich, you've become wealthy. You can't just hoard that wealth. You can't just save that money, but you now have to spend and give and help out people who are less wealthy as you are, less fortunate than you. And that is with knowledge, with teaching them. He says, صَاعًا بِالْحَقِّ. Oh, he says, is it F1? هذا سبق لسان. صَادِعًا. He says, openly speaking the truth. And this proves what he said earlier in the book, التمتع بخصال الرجولة, is not being weak and soft and cowardly. Say the truth. Don't be afraid. Don't fear the blame of the blameworthy people. I don't care what you think or feel about me. It's the haqq, and I'm going to say it. That is the true position of the student of knowledge who is successful. He says, enjoining the good, forbidding the evil, مَوَازِنًا بَيْنَ الْمَصَالِحِ وَالْمَضَارِ. And the thing that blends all of these concepts together, he says, is weighing the benefits from the harms, the pros and the cons. Fiqh, hikmah. Maybe it is wrong, but what happens if I say something? What will happen? It may get worse. Maybe it is right. Maybe it is a recommended act. But are the people ready for it? Can they accept it? Is it something which is a bigger and greater goal or aim, etc.? And this can only be done through fiqh and wisdom that is given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As far as recklessness, you're just being reckless. It doesn't matter. I don't care. I'm going to say it. I'm going to do it. Then that is going to lead to the situation that we're currently in. It's going to lead to the situation that we're currently in of just fawda, things being chaotic. Moving forward, the Shaykh Rahimahullah Ta'ala then goes on to say, after all of this, but after that he says what? He says, Nashiran lil-ilm, spread knowledge. Spread knowledge. Don't hide it. Don't hinder it. Give it to the people. وَبَذْلِ الْجَاهِ, and let the people benefit from your status and your clout. Someone needs to get married. Someone needs a job. Someone needs a tazkiyah to go overseas. Someone needs help. And you can get them married or get them helped out, just through your name and your status, then you should do what? You should help them out. He says, وَالشَّفَاعَةَ الْحَسَنَةِ, a good intercession. Can you help me out, Sheikh? I'm trying to go overseas, but I need this letter. Talib, Bismillah. Can you put in a good word for me? Can you speak to the brothers for me? Can you do this? Bismillah. You help them out. As long as it's hasana, a good thing. As long as it's a good thing, and not being stingy with one's clout. Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala, he explains that al-ihsan has different levels and different categories. He says al-ihsanu bil-jah is to help people out with your name. The only thing that you have to do is put your stamp on it. Sign the paper. Make a phone call. Assalamu alaikum. Yes, there's such and such coming to you. He had a min tarafi. He's from me, inshallah, help him out. That's all you have to do. And anyone who's lived overseas, especially in the Gulf, especially in Saudi, he knows the power of al-ihsanu bil-jah, al-shafa'ah. You go to the office, the mudir says, la, it's not here. You can't do it. Mamnu'. You go to your teacher or your uncle or your neighbor or the person that you're teaching English, he makes a phone call, hayakallah, kef hada, da 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 da. You go back to the office, he stamps in, he signs your paper. But before, there was no more, we can't do it, we can't give you the visa. Everyone understand this? Through clout. So the same applies to a student of knowledge. Help the people out with your status that Allah Azza wa Jalla has given you. And do not be a punishment upon the people with the status that Allah has given you. Do not abuse people with the status that Allah has given you. Do not be a womanizer and abuse women and take advantage of helpless, miskeen sisters because of the status that Allah has given you. I saw you in a video, I saw you on YouTube. Can you take me on as your second or third wife? And you abuse the sister and you don't look after the sister. Just because of your what? Because of your status. That's wrong. And that's a very base thing to do. And don't ever forget, you have a mother and you have sisters and you have daughters. You have an aunt and your little small daughter, your baby girl one day will be grown. And know for sure that in most cases you will reap what you sow. And some of the ulama, they have said that a zina daynun la bud min qada'ihi. They say that zina, fornication, and adultery is a debt that must be paid off. It has to be paid off. In other words, you violate someone's daughter, you sleep around, you commit zina, you mislead a young poor sister. They say in most cases it's going to what? The debt will be paid off through your daughter when she grows older. So just be mindful of that, Be what? Be mindful of that. And that's the wisdom of the Prophet ﷺ when a young boy said, idhanni bizina. He says, oh Messenger of Allah, allow me to make zina. And obviously the companions, they look towards him. Ma lahu, ma. How dare you say something that's aib alik. Right? That's not what the Prophet said. The Prophet says, udnu, come close. And then he spoke to him. He says, atuhibbuhu li ummika? He says, would you like someone to sleep with your mother like that? He says, la. Of course not, O Messenger of Allah. Ja'ani lahu fidak. May Allah make me your ransom if it came down to that. He says, وَلَا النَّاسُ يُحِبُّونَهُ لِأُمَّهَاتِهِمْ. Nor do people like it to happen to their mothers and their sisters and their daughters and their aunts and aunties, etc. Moving forward, the Shaykh Rahimahullah Ta'ala, he then says, فِي نَوَائِبِ الْحَقِّ وَالْمَعْرُوفِ. طيب. Point number 46. عِزَّةُ الْعُلَمَاءِ. التحلي بعزة العلماء صيانة العلم وتعظيمه وحماية جناب عزه وشرفه بقدر ما تبذله في هذا يكون الكسب منه ومن العمل به وبقدر ما تهدره يكون الفوت وعليه فاحذر إلى آخر كلامه رحمه الله. He says here the might and the power of the ulama, the honor of the ulama, the honor that they wield, the power that they wield, and that is by magnifying knowledge, respecting knowledge, and protecting knowledge, and not giving knowledge to someone who's undeserving, not giving knowledge to someone who's unbefitting, unsuited, as it states in the famous narration of Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam, and is mentioned in other athar as well. إِنَّ وَاضِعَ الْإِلْمِ عِنْدَ غَيْرِ أَهْلِهِ كَمُنْقَلِدِ الْخَنَازِيرِ. He says that the one who puts knowledge in his improper place is like the one who places a pearl necklace around a swine, a pig. To take a gold necklace or a pearl necklace and to put it on the neck of a hog. And it states to this day, in the gospel it says what? Do not cast thy pearls among swine. Do not cast thy pearls among swine. Don't give knowledge to someone who's unbefitting of it. Don't put knowledge in a place in which people are not going to respect it. Do not make knowledge a laughing stock and a means of ridicule and humiliation. And the people play with the people of knowledge and hold them on their finger like a ring of keys. We can remove, we can replace, we can lock you up, we can shut you up. They've disrespected ilm. And we've mentioned this before with regards to those who say and those who claim that someone is disrespecting the ulama. You're cursing the ulama. You're belittling the ulama. You're talking about the ulama. We say, no, you have done this. You have caused the people to lose the respect for the ulama. You've caused people to laugh at the ulama. You've caused the people to take the ulama as a joke. Because one day he's Shaykh al-Islam, Al-Ilm, and the next day he's Jahil, he's Kadhab, he's a Dajjal, he's Ikhwani, he's Kada. And then the next day another scholar comes to the UK and to America, and they praise him and he benefits and people love him. Then he's been refuted. He's no longer upon the haqq. He's been this and he's been that. Then a third, then a fourth, and a fifth. And in 20 years span, every single scholar that has visited your country and your masjid has been refuted. And he's ignorant and he's no longer upon the sunnah. What is that going to do to the layman Muslim after 20 years? How much respect are they going to have in their hearts for the ulama afterwards? They're going to say it's a joke. And that is exactly what has happened. So we say you are those who have disrespected the ulama. And you have belittled them. You've caused the people to laugh at them and to say that it's a big game. There's no such thing. Everyone understand this? Moving forward, he then says, rahimahullah ta'ala, point number 47, siyanatul ilm. Protecting knowledge, maintaining knowledge, similar to the previous point. Point 48, al-mudaratu lal-mudahana. Al-mudara lal-mudahana. He says it is to avoid without kissing up and sucking up. Al-mudara is one thing, and al-mudahana is another. Al-mudara is that you compromise for something worldly. And al-mudahana is that you compromise something religious for something worldly. I'll be quiet, I'll step to the side, I won't say anything, I'll let it go to achieve a religious goal. And mudahana is when you say boot kiss in America. I don't know what you call it here in the UK. Boot kissing is when a person compromises the deen to get something worldly. To get something worldly. Everyone understand the difference? That means you don't have to say something about everything. You don't have to speak about everything. You have to criticize everything. Sometimes someone may not give you the necessary respect. Or they may not give you the necessary worth that you're actually worth, the value that you deserve. But you suck it up, you compromise. You turn a blind eye sometimes for the bigger benefit, for the bigger maslahah. And al-mudahana is the opposite. This is the maslahah of the deen, but it's going to come in the way of gold and silver, pounds and dollars. Everyone understand this? And you kiss up and you suck up to get these worldly material things. So the student of knowledge, he has to understand how to be smooth. He has to understand how to be fluid. He has to understand how to avoid clash and friction. What you say, how you say it, and what you don't say, and when you remain quiet. You have to understand how to move and how to operate. Everyone understand this? You have to understand these things. What did the Prophet ﷺ say? Sabaqaka biha Ukasha. Said Ukasha beat you to it. And he never told the man no. He never said that you're a munafiq or you're undeserving. He said Sabaqaka biha Ukasha. Ukasha beat you to it. Khalas. Fihi isti'mal al-ma'arid. Indirect expressions, but not lying and compromising something for your own personal gain or a religious gain. And there are many examples of this in the authentic sunnah. Number 49, al-gharam bil-kutub. شرف العلم معلوم لعموم نفعه وشدة الحاجة إليه ولذا اشتد غرام الطلاب بالطلب والغرام بجمع الكتب مع الانتقاء. He says buying books, purchasing books. becoming greedy for books, and establishing one's library. Establishing one's library. Make sure that you select the proper books. You buy the proper books in order. And that's a lecture in itself, obviously. And that's a workshop in itself, obviously. Perhaps one day we can do that workshop on how to successfully and systematically establish one's library. How to maintain a library. How to buy books, what books not to buy. And this is one of the phenomena when you go overseas in Medina. You find brothers that don't want to buy books. You find brothers that buy 1 million books, but they don't read them, they don't study them. You find people that buy any book. They don't care what's the print, who's the muhaqqiq, what's in it. But there's a balance and there's an art in buying books and purchasing books. There's an art in establishing your personal library. Moving forward, number 50. He says, قوام مكتبتك عليك بالكتب المنسوجة على طريقة الاستدلال والتفقه في علل الأحكام والغوص على أسرار المسائل ومن أجلها كتب ابن تيمية وابن القيم وابن عبد البر التمهيد وابن قدامة المغني والذهبي وابن كثير وابن رجب وابن حجر والشوكاني إلى آخر كلامه رحمه الله تعالى. He says here, buying the books that are strong, buying the books that teach you the secrets, buying the books that unravel and open up the inner dimensions of knowledge. And not just buying any book. From them, obviously, he says, min ajalliha. He says one of the most precious of these books is the library of Ibn Taymiyyah. The library of Ibn Taymiyyah. And also the library of his disciple, Ibn Qayyim. This is why we always quote what? Ibn Qayyim. Why we always quote what? Ibn Taymiyyah, class, lecture, fa'idah. Because if you read the books of these two ulama, there lies no doubt. Many of the modern day scholars and those who came after them are doing nothing more than quoting them and summarizing them and simplifying what they said and established. Everyone understand this? Moving forward, he says, Ibn Abdul Barr, rahimahullah, the Sharh al-Muwatta, At-Tamheed is one of the best books to have in your library. One of the greatest works on fiqh al-sunnah and fiqh al-hadith is At-Tamheed. He mentions many other books as well. Moving forward, point number 51. At-Ta'amul Ma'al Kitab. How to benefit from one's book. How to benefit from your book. Can you pass me your book, Akhi, please? Your book? Your book? No. How to benefit from books. So far, we mentioned the first step is to have what? Or to get what? La, not in that. Book stamp. A personalized book stamp. And we've said before that there are many wisdoms in getting a book stamp. The first wisdom is that it prevents the book from being stolen or taken from you or misplaced. And someone saying, no, it's my book. It's not your book. And wallahi, this has happened before. Secondly, the book stamp, it gives you a deeper relationship and appreciation of your books. They're personalized, right? They're what? They're personalized. It's my name in the book. Everyone understand this? And we said the difference between a student of knowledge and a professional student of knowledge, a systematic student of knowledge, in which you look after every single small and minute detail because you're a connoisseur. You're a connoisseur. It's not just I have books and I study. No, this is what I do every day, all day. Study, teach, learn, travel. So there's no small, minute thing except that you want to do it because that which separates a tea drinker from a tea connoisseur. Everyone understand this? Meticulous detail. We were in a tea shop today, right? It's not the same as the supermarket, is it? The tea aisle. You have the infusers, the spoons, this, that, everything is what? Meticulous, high quality, fine. Because it's made for connoisseurs of tea and of coffee. And the same applies to your books. So that's the first thing we mentioned. Secondly, writing the fawaid inside of the book. Thirdly, make sure every book that you have, read the introduction to it. And read the table of contents. You may not have the time to read all 200 pages or 500 pages. But at least know the table of contents and at least read the introduction. And reading the introduction of the book can save you from many issues and many problems. And there are many questions that people ask. The answer is no other place than the introduction to the book. Everyone understand this? And there are many, many other, as they say, what? Nooks and crannies, right? Of dealing with one's books and dealing with one's library. Lending out books. Is it from the sunnah of the pious predecessors to give out books, to lend out books? Can you be stingy with your books? That's a very, very, very long discussion. And we've seen many things. And Allah knows best. I won't say my name, but there's been times which there have been brothers in Medina that have been in a bookstore, seen a precious book, a rare book, and they don't have enough money to buy the book, and they've hid the book. and put it behind another book. You take a book from the Aqidah section and you go to the, let's say, the cartoon section or the comic section. You hide it until you get enough money to buy that precious book. Or you may buy a set of books and you bring them home to your wife and you told your wife, I don't have money for Pampers or baby food, but you do what? Sneak your books inside the house. There's a fiqh of building a library, and there's a fiqh of being a connoisseur of books. Everyone understand this? How to read books. What books are to be memorized. What books are to be perused through and just look through. What books are books of references. What's the difference between a masdar and a marji'? Anyone know the difference between the two? Masdar and a marji'? Know what I mean? What's the difference between a source and a reference? Hold on. Close, warm, lukewarm, but not hot. It's a game in which we call what? We call it in America? Hot potato, what? Cold potato. You play with your kids. Kids get together, maybe you may have another name for it in the UK, and you hide something. One person gets to hide something. Everybody has to turn around, cover your eyes, you count to 20. Then they said you gotta find it. And when they get close to it, you say you're getting warm, you're getting warm, you're getting warm. It says, as a here, he says, no, cold, cold, cold. And the person finally finds it, you say, what? Hot potato. So it's lukewarm, but not hot. You're almost there. What's the difference? ما الفرق بين المرجع والمصدر? يلا أبو إيسا. He said it's دورة علمية مكثفة. A masdar is the place in which you can find the speech of the author from his own writing. The isnad is there. And a marji' is a place from which that book has been previously quoted. So let's make an example of this. Hadith, it says, لا ضرر ولا ضرار. Right? لا ضرر ولا ضرار. And you put in your paper or your khutbah, وقد أخرج النووي في الأربعين من حديث فلان فلان لا ضرر ولا ضرار. You say collected by Nawawi and it's 40. Nawawi's book is a masdar or a marji'. It's a marji', meaning it's a reference. Meaning Nawawi did not collect the hadith with the isnad. Or you quote Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. And you say, قال Ibn Taymiyyah, such and such, such and such. And you say Zad al-Ma'ad. Ibn Qayyim's book. That's a marji' or a masdar. The marji', it's a reference. The actual source of the book is the book that Ibn Taymiyyah what? Wrote. The actual book that collects the hadith, لا ضرر ولا ضرار. With the sanad, with the isnad. إلى آخره, etc. How to be a professional seeker of knowledge. And he says here, التعامل مع الكتاب. How to benefit from a book. How was the book written? When was the book written? What is the style of the author? What's the madhab of the author? What's the tariqah of the author, etc. Learning how to benefit from books and not just being someone who has what? Books. But you actually know what you're talking about. I remember once, and Allah knows, but no more stories. Point 52. المرور على الكتاب قبل وضعه في المكتبة. He says, breezing through the book, perusing through the book before you place it in your library. Like I what? Like I just explained. Look at the date, the publisher, the introduction, etc. And then you put it away and go back to it when you need it. Number 53, it says, إعجام الكتابة. He says, إعجام الكتابة. What does this mean, إعجام الكتابة? Who can explain this? Anyone that can explain this to me without looking at the translation? What is meant by i'jam or mu'jam or ajami? I'll give him a prize after the lesson. I'll give you a gift. ما المقصود بالمعجم أو الإعجام؟ تفضل. Definitely cold. تفضل. Non-Arab. Which one? Ajami or Ajami? Ajami. And what's Ajam? Arab. Talib. Anybody else? Hold on. Not too hot, not too cold, but definitely not a hot potato. Anybody else? We have two things now. We have an Ajami and an Ajami. Someone who doesn't have Arabian ancestry, someone who has Arabian ancestry, someone who speaks Arabic, etc. What's the difference between the two? And then why is a dictionary called a mu'jam? And what's meant by i'jam? Yusuf knows the answer, alhamdulillah. Perhaps he got it in the Islamic University of Medina, or maybe in the library. Allah knows best. Al-Muhim. This is a discussion in itself. The dictionary, why is it called a mu'jam? How were the original manuscripts written? Everyone understand this? That's all I'll give you for now. That's all I'll give you for now. Talib, let's move on to the next point. I believe this is the last section of the book. Sheikh Bakr rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, في المختصر الفصل السابع المحاذير. Things that you have to stay away from. Things to avoid. Number one, حلم اليقظة. What literal translation is daydreaming. And what's meant by حلم اليقظة is for you to claim something that you really don't have. And for you to have false hopes and extended hopes, to think that you're going to be this great imam, this great mujtahid, and you barely study. You don't sacrifice anything. You don't suffer. You don't give anything, but you think that you're going to be one day Ibn Taymiyyah. And you claim to be Ibn Taymiyyah. You claim to have so much knowledge. But then, wanta kasul. You're lazy. You barely studied. You've barely read. Talib. Number 55. Al-Ihdar an takuna aba shibr. He says, beware of the different adolescent stages of knowledge. 3 stages, he says. Number 1, Al-Ilm thalathatu ashbar. 3 different sections or slices. Man dakhala fi shibr al-awwal takabbara. He says, those who begin the journey of knowledge, they just embark on seeking ilm, takabbar. They puff out their chest a little bit. When you first come back, you sit from Medina the first year. Your first year back, you think you know everything, all of the masail. People walking up to you, mashallah, you're in Medina, you have the nice stove, the nice pen, the nice kufi, how's the ulama, cave, right? You know this, you know that, you correct your teacher. You said it like this, Sheikh, you didn't recite it like that, so on and so forth. That's the first stage. He then says, وَمَنْ دَخَلَ فِي الشِّبْرِ الثَّانِي تَوَاضَعَ. And those who enter into the second phase, they humble themselves. They say, oh man, subhanAllah, I was ignorant last summer. I thought I knew this last summer. I corrected him, but in actuality, he was right. I never even knew that was a hadith. I never even knew that was another qira'ah. I never even heard of this sheikh. I never even knew this was a bookstore. You start to realize that it's not so simple. It's not as shallow, right? He then says, وَمَنْ دَخَلَ فِي الشِّبْرِ الثَّالِثِ عَلِمَ أَنَّهُ مَا يَعْلَمُ. And those who enter into the third and final stage know that they really don't know. And that there's much more out there than what you think you have in your head. Everyone understand this? There's much more out there than what you think you have in your head. But this is the proper way to study. And as long as you know that you're ignorant and you're lacking, you're on the right track. Everyone understand this? You study for a couple of years, you think you're really good. You study for 20 years and you realize that you're not so good. But as long as you know and you feel that you're not so good, you're on the what? That's the right track. And the moment you feel like, I got it, I don't need to study, I don't need to practice, I don't need to prepare, I don't need to review, I don't need to sit. Know for sure that you're now derailed. You're off the track now. Talib, number 56. At-tasadduru qabla at-ta'ahul. It's putting yourself out there, taking on leadership, responsibility, teaching, benefiting before you're actually qualified. Before you're actually qualified. Yuridu an yutir walamma yurayish. He says he wants to fly, but he still has bushy feathers. You see a baby owl. Baby owls look nothing like adult owls, right? Baby hawks and falcons, they look nothing like the adult birds. They can barely fly. And the worm is what? Brought to them. And the little birdie, it leaves the nest, it tries to fly, it falls down, it tries to hunt, and it's picked off by another animal or by a bigger bird. You can't fly unless your wings are what? Strong and your feathers are long. But obviously you have to try. You have to make an attempt. So there's a balance. If you remain in the nest forever and you say my feathers are still bushy and short, you'll never learn how to fly and hunt. And you'll be spoon-fed worms for the rest of your life. Rather, your mother may eat you. Well-known phenomenon, huh? Oftentimes they eat their weak children because it's a weak link in the bloodline. It's a weak link in the bloodline. You don't deserve to have children and carry on my name. You have to go. You're too weak. Are we understand this? We learn things from animals. And if you leave the nest prematurely, too fast, you'll be victimized by a greater, what? Hunter. So you have to take a step out of the nest, but know that you still have to be in the nest. There's a balance. Everyone understand this? So you don't have to study for 50 years to teach a class, as some people try to say. Nor should you teach a class after you study for 6 months or a year. It depends on what class you want to teach. And it depends on what you've learned, and it depends on how talented you are. And it depends on how hard you study. What's important is beware of making yourself less than what you actually are. Beware of jumping ahead too fast, and obviously beware of jealousy and envy. Because people, they attack their friends and their peers with this. It says, yatasaddaq. Look, he's talking, he's answering a question, he's speaking, he's not translating for a sheikh, he's arrogant, he's full of himself. And as we said this morning, they're covering their jealousy and their insecurities. And it is embarrassing because we're the same age, we come from the same country, we have the same background. You're here and I'm still back there. So you're embarrassing me because you have proven that I could have been better than what I am now. So the only solution is for me to do what now? Is to bring you down. You're arrogant if you do your own class. You're arrogant if you don't have a sheikh that you're translating for. You're full of yourself. You think you know everything. You have your own Q&A. That's what the people say. And obviously those people, they're saying this because they're masking their what? Their evil hasad. So it's a balance. There's a what? There is a balance. And you'll never grow if you remain in the nest forever. You have to take risks, but calculated risks. You have to be adventurous. You have to be brave. Everything is not going to come to you on a silver platter. Moving forward. التنمر بالعلم احذر أن يتسلى به المفلسون من العلم يراجع مسألة أو مسألتين وإذا كان في مجلس فيه من يشار إليه أثار البحث فيهما ليظهر علمه وكان في هذا من سوءة أقل أن يعلم أن الناس يعلمون حقيقته. He says, beware of being a one-trick pony. Beware of being a one-trick pony. I know it doesn't say that in the book, right? But what does it say in your translation? Deterioration of what? Deterioration of manners. What the sheikh is saying, do not be a one-trick pony or a two-trick pony. Someone that doesn't know that much. You aren't that skilled, but you take one issue or two issues and you study them from front to back. You memorize it, you get it down packed, and then you present yourself to the people like a mufti. You present to yourself, the people, as a researcher. What is the rule on wiping over the leather socks? فيه أقوال وقال فلان وقال الله تعالى وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ضعيف كذا وكذا. But then you ask him another question. ما حكمه المسألة الخمار? Wiping on a woman's khimar. He says, يعني. Because he's only learned what? That one trick. Or those two tricks. Everyone understand this? Don't be like this. Don't fancy it up. In actuality, you only have one or two things to do. Everyone understand this or not? That's what the sheikh is saying here. That's not necessarily the thorough translation. Don't be a person like this. Moving forward, he says, number 58, Tahbir al-Kagid. He says, beware of rushing to write. Don't be in haste to write a book. Don't be in haste to put out something. Make sure that you're qualified first. Make sure there's a need for you to write it. And make sure that what you're writing is thorough and sound. Everyone understand this? And the same applies to the previous rules, Abu Isa. Don't be over hesitant. And don't ever scorn yourself. What's the purpose of me writing a book if the ulama or these people knows they wrote books? Do you think An-Nawawi rahimahullah had ever thought or envisioned or dreamt that his book would be translated into 50 languages, taught and memorized around the world? Do you think Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab knew of the West, of America, of the UK? Do you think people would memorize Usul al-Thalatha? Do you think he knew that? Yet and still he did what? He wrote his book. And look at the benefit that Allah put in his books. Why should Ibn Abdul Wahhab write a book? And Ibn Taymiyyah wrote hundreds of books. Ibn Qayyim wrote thousands of pages of books. That was not the attitude of that Imam. So there's once more what? There has to be a balance. Don't rush. But at the same time, do not scorn yourself. And you never know who's going to benefit from what you write. You never know. Don't ever say there's so many books out there. You never ever know this. Moving forward, number 59. موقفك من وهم سبقك. What is your stance when someone who's your senior makes a mistake? Your teacher, an older brother, an older sister, someone who's above you. What is your stance? What's your position? You hear your teacher say something wrong. What should you do? Should you correct them? Should you raise your hand? Should you refute them? Should you keep silent? Should you act like you didn't hear it? What is the proper etiquette of fixing an error of someone sabaqak, who came before you? Everyone understand this? Because it's very dangerous. If you do it in an improper way, they want to say you lack respect. You think you're better than me. MashaAllah, you studied and you benefited. Now you know better than me. But when you came to my house in Medina, it was what? Bekuniyah. Now you say, Allah, the hadith is da'if. You fix that in your khutbah, huh? If it's done improperly. And if he keeps silent and he doesn't say anything, that means that he has more respect for me than for the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that's obviously a what? That's a huge problem. So there's a balance in correcting your teacher, or even if it isn't your teacher, someone who came what? Before you. As he said, I taught him archery, the way of the bow and the arrow. And when he became proficient, he did what? He shot me with an arrow. And that's the sunnah of life. Yusuf? طيب, moving forward. طيب, خير inshallah. He says here, ادفع الشبهات. اجتنب إثارة الشبه. وإرادها على نفسك أو غيرك. Alameen, this one is for you. He says, beware of spreading doubts and bringing up doubts. Doubtful matters for yourself and for others. Be mindful of this. And obviously there's a balance in this as well. Because one of the greatest ways of learning that which is correct is to learn and study that which is what? Incorrect. But it's only for certain people at certain times. What? At what? At certain times. Moving forward. Number 61, احذر اللحن. He says, beware of having a crooked tongue. Beware of having a crooked tongue. Mispronunciation. Misreading. Beware of being a graduate from the Islamic University of Medina, and the young children of Medina are laughing at you when they hear you recite. They're laughing at you when they hear you say a basic sentence in Arabic. They laugh at you. Beware of this. What knowledge can you spread and you don't know the basics of Arabic? Your tongue is still crooked and wrinkled, full of kinks. Number 62. الإجهاد الفكري احذر الإجهاد الفكري بإخراج الفكرة قبل نضوجها. He says, beware of coming to a result. Beware of coming to a theory without gathering the necessary data or data. Beware of coming to a conclusion unless you give it enough thought. You've thought it out properly. You've taken your time, you've investigated, then you come up with a thought. Everyone understand this? And as we say, empty your what? And fill your jumper, طيب, number 63. الإسرائيليات الجديدة. احذر الإسرائيليات الجديدة في نفثات المستشرقين من يهود ونصارى. في أشد نكاية وأعظم خطرا من الإسرائيليات القديمة وقد أخذ بعض المسلمين عنها سنة وخفض الجناح عنها الآخرون فاحذر أن تقع فيها. He says, beware of the Israelite narrations. The modern day Israelite narration. What does this mean? And before we move forward, you can clearly see those who are reading the Arabic, those who are even listening to my basic translation, you can clearly see that the Shaykh rahimahullah has a high writing style. And oftentimes he speaks very metaphorically. He speaks what? Very metaphorically. And this goes to show those who are ignorant says, oh, you're always mentioning metaphors and riddles. You're always saying some type of fancy line or one-liners. He's doing the same thing. In what? In Arabic. Everyone understand this? Because he's speaking to someone who has a language and a culture. A language and a what? A culture. And it's one of the reasons why Ahlul Bid'ah went astray. Because they separated the language from the understanding and the practice of the Arabs. They go hand in what? Hand in hand. There's never an isolated word. There's never an isolated sentence. It's always surrounding and involved with the what? A context and a culture. When you speak to someone, I would understand this, and this is why poetry is so powerful. Because the poet, he addresses both. He uses the eloquent words with the cultural context in a smooth, rhythmic way. I would understand this? Moving forward, he says here, now, before we go forward, what is an Isra'iliyah? When we read Ibn Kathir or Ibn Jarir, Adam alayhi salam was in Jannah with Hawa, and they say there was a snake, a great serpent. And the snake was 1,000 cubits long. And the snake was green. And the snake was like this. And the apple was this size. And the tree was like that. And so on and so forth. The details of the stories of the previous prophets and messengers that have not been mentioned in the specifics of the Sunnah. We talked about this when, Ridwan? Last night. About Sulaiman and Bilqis. Right? Who brought the throne? Was it the person? How fast was the throne? Etc. We spoke about this last night. So that's dangerous upon a student of knowledge. If he can't verify and distinguish between that which is correct and that which is passed down from the Jews and the Christians. He says, but what about the modern day narrations like this? In other words, fables, stories, rumors. Everyone understands things that are being spread and sent upon the Muslims that have no base. They have no what? that have no base. That's how I would translate it and understand it. And Allah Azza wa Jalla truly knows best. Number 64, احذر الجدل البيزنطي. He says, beware of baseless debate, fruitless debate. There's no point in you arguing and debating on this issue. The literal wording is Byzantine. The Byzantine Empire, right? The Byzantines. Once more, the Shaykh is speaking what? Metaphorically. He says, beware of this stupid argumentation. And what does he mention in the book? Read it in English. He says something. Read it. He says, I mean the lame debate that would little benefit. The Byzantines, they used to do what? They used to debate on the sex of the angels, or the angels males, or the angels females, and then what? While the enemy was at the gates. Who was the enemy at the gates? Was it the Mongols? Was it the Ottomans? Al-Muhim, they're about to invade and take over their land. And they're sitting in their chapels and their temples and their churches on their thrones and having this useless, fruitless argument and debate. Everyone understand this? Don't be petty and don't be small-minded and simple-minded. And this is a cancer today. We argue over things, we discuss things, and major problems are going on in our lives, our communities, our homes, and our countries. And we're at each other's necks and throats about trivial issues. He says, beware of this. And the point that the Shaykh is trying to say, he's trying to say one thing and one thing only, and that is to be deep. Not to be on the surface as a student of knowledge, and to look at the bigger goal and the bigger picture. Are we understanding this? To look at the bigger goal and the what? The bigger picture. And do not sacrifice valuable time for things which are trifles. That's what the Shaykh is trying to say here. Talib, moving forward, number 65. لا طائفية ولا حزبية يؤخذ الولاء والبراء عليها. He says there is no طائفية, in which we have Americans and the British. We have the Union and the Confederate. We have the Johnsons and the what? There's no gang wars here in Al-Islam. There is no Bloods and Crips. There's no North and South. He's shocked, right? He's like, what did he just say? There's none of that in seeking knowledge, in which is a party or a group or a gang or a madhab or a country in which you have absolute love for and absolute hatred for the opposite or those who are outside of your circle. Is Sheikh alive today in 2018? How long ago did he write this book? Exactly what he said and feared has manifested. You find someone, his wala and his bara is for a masjid. His wala and his bara is for a sheikh or an imam. His wala and his bara is for a race or a color or a gender. His wala and his bara is for a bookstore, a bookshop, or a university or a school. The sheikh says none of this. This is not from the Hilyat. It's not from the finery of the seeker of knowledge. Beware of being a party partisan. Beware of being someone that's a fanatic. Beware of being a bigot, in which only my sheikh has the truth. Only my sheikh knows the truth. Only we have the haqq. And no one else in the dunya. Allah only went in mercy, what? For us. Don't be like that. And we mentioned this last night, what some of the ulama of the past would say. مثل الذي يأخذ عن عالم واحد كمثل رجل له امرأة إذا حاضت بقي. He says the similitude of a man who has only one teacher and he only studies with one teacher and he only learns from one teacher is like a man who only has one wife. He's in a monogamous relationship. When his wife menstruates, baqiya. What can he do? In other words, if the sheikh doesn't want to teach him, there's no knowledge. If the sheikh doesn't know, he can't discover it. In other words, you're limiting yourself. You're hobbling your legs. You're tying your feet up by only limiting yourself to one source. I would understand this. We explained this last night. Last but not least, number 66, the last and final point of the book, he says, نواقض هذه الحلية اعلم أن من أعظم خوارم هذه الحلية المفسد النظام عقدها إفشاء السر نقل الكلام من قوم إلى آخرين والصلف واللسان وكثرة المزاح والدخول في حديث بين اثنين والحقد والحسد وسوء الظن ومجالسة المبتدعة والنقل الخطى إلى المحارم. The Shaykh rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions the nawaqidh, the things which will nullify this hilya, the things which will break and infringe this etiquette or these manners, and many of them and most of them he's mentioned previously in the book with regards to what you do with your tongue, who you sit with, who you study with, how you think about people, how you deal with people, and what is inside of your heart. Many of those things he's mentioned before previously in the book. This is basically the end of the Hilyat, of the summarized version. He says, فَاحْذَرْ هَذِهِ الْأَثَامَ وَأَخَوَاتِهَا وَاقْصُرْ خُطَاكَ عَنْ جَمِيعِ الْمُحَرَّمَاتِ وَالْمَحَارِمِ فَإِنْ فَعَلْتَ وَإِلَّا فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّكَ رَفِيقُ الدِّيَانَةِ. إلى آخر الكلام رحمه الله. He closes out the book. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be a proof for us and not a proof against us. We ask Allah Azza wa Jalla increases in beneficial knowledge and righteous action. As we have said before, this is only one book among many other books that have been taught and explained to show the proper do's and don'ts of the seeker of knowledge. How you are to behave with yourself, how you are to behave with your teacher, how you are to behave with your peers, how you are to behave with Allah Azza wa Jalla, first and foremost. Who you can and cannot sit with, who you can and cannot or should and should not learn from, who you can and cannot teach, what books, what classes, where to go, what to start off with first, etc. All of the details of these things have been explained in the proper manner and in the proper times in many other books that we have explained. Please forgive me for rushing and for jamming and for cramming. Time is little, and alhamdulillah, we wanted to finish the book, and that is exactly what we did by Allah's grace and by Allah's mercy. Wa jazakumullahu khairan.